Greetings, everyone. Really, the title of this message should be A Word from the Assistant Pastor, because Father Peter and I have decided to take it turnabout each Sunday to record a short message. It's rather sad to see the empty church in that opening clip, isn't it? Even if the brethren's chanting, which you can hear in the background, assures you that we're still offering Mass and praying for you, our parishioners, though you are not physically present. I'm sure you're as keen to be back as we are to see you again. Before I share a few thoughts on the scripture for this week, I thought I would just ask for your prayers. We've had the news of quite a few deaths connected to our community this week. On Monday, we heard of the sudden death of Fred Bendyke, long-time parishioner of St Dominic's, though he and Mary have lived the last few years in Deepdean Parish. Then a young mother with a daughter at St Dominic's School, Christiane de Klerk, succumbed to cancer. We had news too that one of our Dominican priests in the Solomon Islands, Father Calixtus Tavisibatu, died just at the age of 60. And we also had news of the death of Xavier Zammit, Joseph Markham, and a resident at Nazareth, Lorraine Thompson. Let's keep them all in our prayers. In this Sunday's Gospel, Jesus catches out the disciples arguing which of them was the greatest. It's a common human failing. Who can forget Cassius Clay as he was then, who boasted proudly, "I am the greatest." And it's not only prize fighters and apostles who think like this. "I am the best one to lead the party," assert politicians of all colours as they jostle for leadership. Sydney had the best Olympics ever, at least until the next one. Advertisements tell us that certain products are the best. One of our priests was a little shocked to discover this week that a food blender that we had in the kitchen didn't live up to its manufacturer's assurances of robust power. Yes, he busted it. In truth, most of us are inclined to think that we are a cut above others. All the world is queer save thee and me, and even thou art a little queer, as Robert Owen famously put it. It's not uncommon, then, for people to mistake this kind of self-aggrandizement for leadership. Jesus, however, insists that all leadership begins with discipleship, with service. If anyone wants to be first, he must make himself last of all and servant of all. Even in the Church, we have not always remembered Jesus' words. The popes may have used the title Servant of the Servants of God since the days of Pope Gregory the Great, but we have to admit that some popes have not always appeared as servant. Pope Urban VI, for example, in the 14th century, had cardinals who opposed him tortured. And in the 16th century, Clement VII's power politicking with France, Spain and Germany led to the sack of Rome. The abuse crisis in our own times reminds us that often the little ones, in this case literally children, were not listened to, valued or protected as they deserve to be. Nevertheless, we should not allow the failures of some Christians to blind us to the power of the gospel. In fact, throughout the ages, Christianity has frequently challenged the doctrine of might is right, developing, for example, principles of morality which temper the use of power. The 16th century Dominican Francisco de Vitoria developed the idea of international law. Nations are not free just to do as they please because they can. On a more personal level, as I wrote this, I was thinking of the scene in James Joyce's book, Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, where Stephen Dedalus has been wrongly punished by the Prefect of Studies and decides to appeal to the rector. He fully expects to be rebuffed. To his surprise, really, and very much to his relief, the rector receives him graciously, concludes that the prefect of studies has made a mistake, and extends his protection to the young Stephen. Joyce's rector, Father Conmee, was the decentest rector that ever was in Clongowes, he says, a title the boys gave him, not one that he sought himself. Since I experienced almost the exact same scenario when I was in high school, Jesuit school too, the scene in Joyce's classic has never left me. My point is this. It is a common human failing, the failure to hear the weak and the powerless, and the Church has often failed, but not always. There have always been men like Father Conmee. We should not deny the failings of Christians, nor forget the successes of the gospel in touching the hearts of men and women. The example of Jesus is absolutely clear. Our following of Jesus is not always illustrious. But where would we be without him? Join us on Zoom at 10:30 on Wednesday morning for the Rosary, followed by a bit of a chat, and on Thursday at 7 p.m. for a spiritual talk of maybe 10 to 15 minutes, followed by a question and answer or chat session. We'd love to see you there. The link is on our parish website.